What's going on there, guys? Good morning, good afternoon out there. It's the Earthmaster here on this Saturday, November 12th, 2022. It's about 12:23 p.m. California time. And latest quake shows some activity. 2.2 out on the big island of Hawaii. We did see quite a bit of uptick in movement from this time yesterday, including a pretty large 7.0 in the Fiji Islands area. Let's go ahead and check out the latest activity here on the USGS map. Seeing quite the ramping up again of earthquake activity deep down below the oceanic crust here. That 7.0 coming in just after 11 o'clock last night. Originally came in as a 7.5. It got downgraded there a little bit to a 7.0. Also seeing quite a bit of aftershock activity with those earthquakes, or with the main quake, I should say. And also noticing a trend upstream once again around the Tonga Trench. All things kind of pointing towards this area of something much larger brewing following all this activity over the last week. I want to pull up the last 7 days of 4.5 and above. Of course, this isn't the only large earthquake we've seen in the Fiji Islands area last night. Back on the 9th, a couple days ago here, we had a pretty good swarm of some 6s and also a 7.0. Well south of the region from last night, but also down into the Tonga Trench, the Kermadec Trench area. So that's a lot of activity ramping up here within this region over a couple day period. So we had, let's see what we got for the largest quakes here. Was that 7.3 up in Tonga. Now that earthquake struck yesterday, or late, when was that? Late Friday? Late Thursday, I believe. But either way, this activity occurred following the movement down south here into this little cluster. And then last night, of course, we've seen the other 7-pointer kick up with further adjustment upstream towards where the 7-pointer hit. So a little bit of bouncing back and forth here of the subduction zone quakes way down there, and also up around the trench area itself where it starts to subduct here in this area, this plate boundary. So I think with all of this movement here, it's definitely noteworthy to watch for some further activity along the Kermadec Trench and the Tonga Trench. Seems like things are just kind of pointing towards that area. Now, I know we haven't had a lot of movement down here yet. Let me see what the EMSC model has for this area. Today, it looks like quite a few 3s in this area, including a 4.7 kicking off overnight. There's a couple 4s down here into the Kermadec Trench and some 3s further down south, but USGS not reporting those again, so good to double check different agencies. There are some of those earthquakes popping up around the New Zealand area, but again, I still think it's noteworthy to watch this specific area down south here along the possibly the Hikurangi subduction zone into the Kermadec Trench, because that's way too much activity, a lot of activity over the last couple days here. So just a total tally, we've got about 29 earthquakes of 4.5 and above over the last week, but the majority of these have really only been over the last couple days here, including all the 7s. We actually had 3 7-pointers in a short amount of time, folks. That doesn't happen a lot where we see that many 7-pointers in one area. So something definitely brewing here in this area. With adjustment, only very minimal adjustment up here around the subduction zone itself here towards the where it all starts to subduct, the strain area, I should say. This whole area is strained, but kind of up here where the plates collide and or subduct, I should say. So watch this area pretty closely. We really haven't seen, and this is the last 24 hours, aside from the 3s and a couple 4s missing there, still kind of absent from any larger activity. So we'll keep an eye on that region pretty closely. Not a lot of further pressure to the west here yet. I'm still kind of waiting on that because we definitely seen quite a bit of activity here overnight. Doesn't look like. Let me go back here to the newest first here real quick. Looks like about 6 o'clock in the morning. Further activity around Tonga. And it looks like we did see a little bit of adjustment here in the 4 range. We got one 5-pointer further over around the Java Trench, but no major adjustment here following all this activity. Let's see here, 2309. Some aftershock sequences there following that 7-pointer. So again, let me check up north here. Now this is the area that should be showing some major adjustment here soon. It's been awfully quiet for this area recently, and with all the movement of the Pacific Plate all over the place, this should show some movement here pretty soon, aside from what we're seeing right now. We did see one earthquake early this morning, a 4.7. That's around the Izu Trench. Mariana Trench really hasn't shown anything either. 4.7 at 54 kilometers deep here. So definitely, this could definitely go a couple different ways with some larger activity up here, or we could start to see adjustment around the northwest corner of the Pacific Plate here. Watch that pretty closely. Throughout the Hawaii area, Big Island lighten up a little bit this morning, it looks like, right around the Mauna Loa area. Seen a pretty good swarm of activity, about 14 earthquakes so far. Latest one shows a 1.9 right up there at the towards the crater area, but also somewhat deep, about 2.6 kilometers deep, indicating something stirring up below the ground, along with some of this activity over here to the west. This here mostly shallow, and for the most part, when we see activity up here around the crater, it's relatively shallow as well, except for a couple deeper ones there. Kind of interesting. See what's going on there. Pahala area, most of the activity confined here to the southeastern region. One earthquake offshore, looks like a 2.0, 15 kilometers deep for that earthquake. Into the Alaska region, not a whole lot of adjustment up here following all the activity over the past few days. Things actually kind of quiet as far as standard or average background activity goes. Over here around Trident Volcano, only a couple small earthquakes listed up here within this area. Cook Inlet area and up through Anchorage looks about average there for daily activity. No major adjustments noted throughout the Pacific Northwest. Got Mount Rainier up here showing a little bit of seismic activity. Let's go ahead and check out the tremor map here tonight and see what we had from last night. It was very minimal. 13 epicenters down to the south here, and then also up to the north. Very minimal adjustment. Let's check out the Mount Rainier volcanic seismicity map, because they are showing some activity up here, and it almost looks like we're missing a couple stations, if I remember right. I thought this one had a little bit more, but either way, we'll check out the ones that are here on the map and see what we got for seismic activity. And still kind of looks like we got a little activity kicking up. Very small microquakes listed up here on the map. This is some type of interference that occurs seems like every 12 hours or so. Previous day, there's a couple small earthquakes there as well. So a little ongoing sequence, it looks like, around Mount Rainier of some earthquake activity. Nothing major at all whatsoever, but they are reporting a little bit here on the map. Over the last 7 days, they have a few listed up here within the vicinity of Mount Rainier, about 22 earthquakes in this area. The majority of them up around the summit region. All right, let's see what else we got. Northern California, Oregon's pretty quiet. Northern California did see some activity here around the southern end here of the Gorda Plate and the Pacific Plate boundary, just off the Mendocino Triple Point Junction here, 3.4. That one coming in from yesterday. Aside from that, nothing really happening in Northern California. The Bay Area looking very typical here around the Hayward Fault and the Calaveras Fault system. No major swarms to note. And up here around the Clear Lake Volcanic Field, that's just very typical here in a given day around the Cobb Mountain area. Let's see what we got over around the Antelope Valley area. Things were kicking up about 5 o'clock in the morning, a 3.1 and a 2.4. This is the Antelope Valley up here by Colville, not the one down south. The ones down south actually look pretty minimal. Not a whole lot of activity in the Antelope Valley near Lancaster and Palmdale. This is a pretty good section of the San Andreas Fault. Looking pretty quiet for now. No major swarms, no major unusual activity. Ridgecrest showed signs of seismic increasing yesterday. Definitely a noticeable increase. But today it looks like things are mellowing out a little bit with only a zero point 0.8 about 9 o'clock this morning, my time. Salt Lake City got a 3.6 overnight, it looks like, about 5 in the morning. Getting in there. This activity has been kind of spotty up here across northern Utah. Just a little bit of activity outside of the Ogden region. And up into, let's see what we got here. What do we got? Someone freezing my computer up? Is it USGS freezing it up? Let me close that page out just in case. It's a little on the odd side. Let me see what's going on here. Are we still live? I think USGS pulled the plug on me. Won't let me access their site. Look at that. Just sitting there. I know it's not my internet because I can access many different things here. The internet's just fine, but USGS, you guys see that? Look at that. Oh, now it wants to work. It's a little on the odd side. I start pulling up their page, and got to remember, folks, whenever you visit someone's web page like this, it's on a server that's connected to their data. Of course, on the opposite side of this line, you make a connection. My IP goes through, of course, the ISP here, and then it connects over to their computers, their data system. So literally, if you run a web page, you can see who's connected, their IP address and whatnot, and find out more information about them. That's just how the internet works, but it's supposed to be trustworthy here, right? Government agencies, aren't they supposed to be trustworthy? Goodness, that was kind of odd. Very odd. But again, I'm glad you guys get to see these weird events on occasion. All right, where was I at? I was just getting ready to go up into Yellowstone here. And I got one earthquake way out here. A 3.5 at 10 kilometers deep. Way outside of the Yellowstone region. Nothing really showing up here on the map. Let's go ahead and check out the seismograph stations here and see what we have. There's a couple different things I'm watching. The swarm over here, by the way, is pretty intense overnight. Look at that here at Yellowstone. Very drastic, spiky activity ramping up significantly overnight around the Maple Creek area. A lot of that from yesterday as well. Not for sure. Did we cover that last night in the update? I can't remember exactly. I think we did. But here's this morning's or late last night's activity, the 7-pointer kicking up around that time in Fiji. That's going to be a signature, and it showed up pretty nicely across the area. But it almost looks like there was 2 earthquakes here. But as far as the USGS and the EMSC, there was only 2. So I find that a little odd. 7.0 at 23:09 my time. It's going to be 0709 UTC time. So 0709 area. Right? Let's see here. 0709 0709 time frame. It's going to be right about here. But it almost looks like there was 2 earthquakes. You can see them, the 2 signatures on all the areas here. So I wouldn't doubt it come Monday. They review this activity and maybe trigger up the second earthquake in there. A little on the odd side for sure. But following that activity, I've seen some more movement a little bit later, and I can't figure out exactly where that's coming from as far as that other signature here. It almost looks like it's localized to the region, but not local specifically here at the park. Let's see, it's going to be this one right here. It kicks up about, notice the red signature over here around the 10 o'clock UTC time, extending here onto the blue line. 10 o'clock UTC time. What else kicked up out here around 10 o'clock? UTC time. Of course, we did have the 5.8, but that was prior. $10 o'clock UTC time. Was it this 3.6? Nope. So a little bit, I'm having some issues trying to find out exactly what that signature is and where it took place, where that earthquake took place. But that's not the only one. There's a couple other ones as well that's kind of showing up on the map, on the graphs here, that are just kind of unusual readings here and here. So again, they're not really showing too much activity out here. I wonder if it is this one right here. There it is, 0958. Okay, so that earthquake striking well outside the park here is that signature that I'm kind of looking for. This one right here. And looking at the map, it kind of does show a little bit stronger signature for the most part as we head towards this area, except for on, yeah, it looks like Hawk's Rest area picked it up too, right here. So, okay, that took care of that one. But there's still a couple other signatures out there that are a little bit odd. Either way, definite swarm going on at Yellowstone right now. Looks like that's continued overnight and throughout the morning time frame as well. Nothing major going on, but the USGS is going to be busy when they get back Monday morning. Spotting earthquakes. Again, nothing major here far as any larger quakes go in the Maple Creek area. At best, some of this movement is showing up around the Madison River area, but these are all definitely small microquakes. Otherwise, we would note all these spikes across the board. If they were like 2s or 3s, I believe those are probably a bunch of 1.5s and below listed on the Maple Creek section here. Definitely some smaller quakes, but a lot. Quite a bit of them in there. Let's see here. So we'll get out of here. Man, it popped open a whole bunch of windows. Oklahoma, what do we got? Not a whole lot overnight. Looks like maybe a couple 2s kicking up here throughout the region of Oklahoma. New Madrid zone, nothing really showing up there right now at all. Not seeing any quakes. Nor the eastern portion of the country. And around the Caribbean plate, aside from that 5.8 here that struck overnight. Thanks for the reports on the Did You Feel It reports. Got quite a few folks calling in on that earthquake. 99 kilometers deep, so somewhat deep here into the Middle America Trench, just outside of the Guatemala City that sits up here about almost 50 miles or so. It is historically very, very active. Middle America Trench is a very dangerous zone as well when it comes to producing some very large earthquakes. So a 5.8, not that super big, but definitely a little bit of activity kicking up there yesterday in that region. South America, not a whole lot going on. A couple small quakes throughout the area. And listed on the globe, see what we got here. It looks like some 2s along the central portion here of the Peru-Chile Trench overnight and this morning. So that's just, man, just a lot of activity, folks. I really thinking here that we're looking for a very big earthquake within the area. And I say that because it's just been way too active. 3 7s and a bunch of other 6s in this area over a couple-day period is pinpointing an area that could be seeing a major quake. There's just a couple areas here, folks, that I need to watch pretty closely, and that includes this area right down here along New Zealand. Got to remember the west-northwestward plate movement here. As we get these deeper quakes and shallower earthquake activity, it makes a lot of adjustment down here, not only in the deeper areas where the strain's being released, but also applying further back-building pressure along this region. And ultimately, the Pacific plate as a whole heads over towards this direction here. That's could be very possibly where we could be seeing the buildup of pressure. Again, I'd like to keep this, where did my plate systems go? Right here. I'd like to pull up this plate map here and show you the general plate motion here as we look at the subduction zone around Tonga and Fiji. Sits right about here. Look at the arrows. They're all pointing towards this area. Kermadec Trench area, New Zealand, and specifically up here around the Japan Kuril-Kamchatka Trench and the we've got the Izu and the Mariana Trench down here across the Filipino plate. Watching that pretty closely. Too much movement in one area with not a whole lot of adjustment elsewhere. That's not good. All right, let's see what else we got here, folks. I think that's about it for earthquake activity. Himalaya area, let's see if we got any movement kicking up here. This area has been showing some signs of increasing activity. This area does produce some pretty large earthquakes over time, and we have been seeing a little bit over the last week or so. We've seen a 5.7 a couple days ago. Now we got a 5.2. I believe this area here, they've chatted about this for a couple years, how it's capable of producing a pretty large earthquake. There is some seismic gaps out here in terms of historical data, and this region is in one of them. So just a matter of time before we see something much stronger for that area. And what do we got in Afghanistan? Seen a 4.6 last night. Aside from that, as we head further west, a little bit of activity in Algeria. 4.9 at 10 kilometers deep. Atlantic Ocean looks pretty clear and calm for now. Not a whole lot popping off through that area. Solar Ham site. This sunspot 3141 wants to jump all over the place. It's first it was kind of calm, then it developed a little bit more complex magnetic field, where we're seeing quite a few C's and even a couple M flares over the last couple days here. And right now, this morning, looks like we're starting to really increase in terms of instability on the magnetic structure. Noticing the upper C flares popping here, kind of like popcorn. Wanting to get back up into the M flare category, so I think we need to watch the sunspot closely. 3141. Let me pull up the latest image here from the SDO, NASA.gov website. It's going fast. It's moving away from us pretty fast here, turning away from us. But I think it does. Let me look here. It's getting a little bit of complex magnetic fields here. Notice the blue, the orange, yellow, very close together. Up here on this sunspot as well. So there's a couple different areas of the structures to watch for some possible M flaring. I don't think we'll see an X flare from any of this. Just a potential low-grade M flare from these two sunspots here. Getting a little bit further development of a new sunspot, it looks like, right here, and also another region further to the east up here. Notice that over the last, what is this, probably a 12-hour difference here from this image to that. Notice that this structure has actually grown a little bit since their latest update there on the Solar Ham site. So things can rapidly progress. 85% chance of a C flare, M flare at 35% chance, X flare around 10, and the proton event possible around 10% as well. Again, that's coming from 3141, and it looks like a newer named sunspot up here, 3145. A little cluster of groups here, kind of neat, kind of huge looking. Definitely, if you have a solar telescope, no problem spotting these massive sunspots on the sun. And currently somewhat facing Earth, but not for long. I think if anything does pop off as far as a major CME or a solar flare, it'd definitely be Earth directed, but for not much longer. 3-day geomagnetic forecast calls for green conditions across the board. We haven't really seen any major events Earth directed. Therefore, things will stay minimal across the aurora forecast. And unless something changes here, it'll probably stay green like that for a little while. Real-time solar wind stream. We did see a little bit of speed kicking up here around the 450 range. But everything's pretty stable in the magnetic field here. And density is pretty low as well. So not a whole lot going on for the current solar wind stream. All right, folks, I am going to jump off here and enjoy the rest of my weekend. It is Saturday. Remember, tomorrow we're going to be doing our drawing for our members only. I'm not for sure what time we will be what time we will be doing that. Probably be in the afternoon sometime tomorrow. So look for that tomorrow afternoon. Giving away some prizes. Got to be a member here on the channel. Make sure you click that join button and automatically be entered into tomorrow's drawing. Till then, folks, stay safe out there. Again, that's a lot of earthquake activity kicking up. I'm going to bring up the last. Let's bring up. What do we got there on the seismograph? Got an earthquake coming into Hawaii. Picking up an earthquake. Looks like a 3.6 coming in right now. Notice that on the earthquake 3D globe. And also there on the seismograph station, Hot Caves, which is coming around the bend again. Got a couple different stations here that we're monitoring. What do we got? A bunch. See, I'm trying to find the Hot Cave station here. I'm actually kind of missing. My hand is missing here on the graph. Normally, you guys can see my hand. Well, there it is. So that's going to be the Hot Cave station there in Hawaii, picking up that 3.6. There's my hand. Okay. All right. I thought I was delusional there for a minute, seeing things that weren't or supposed to be there. Activity. What did I pull up here? 5.8 and above. So these are our 5.8s and above areas. South America has really been lacking earthquake activity, but I don't think right now that's the area that we need to watch. I think down along this trench area, Kermadec Trench, New Zealand area, but also general plate movement tells us right here to watch pretty closely as well. That's going to be this area off the coast of Japan, Mariana Trench area. So be on guard, folks. I'm going to kick this back down to, we'll go about, what is that, about 1.9 and above. That way we can see some of the general seismic activity there in the swarm on Hawaii. Good to keep tabs on that. Till then, folks, all right, later tonight we'll do a further update unless something major happens. Till then, we'll catch you guys a little bit later on. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe out there, folks.